My dad, I grew up with my dad almost weekly saying to me things like, I had to get up at 4 in the morning and walk 12 miles to school, uphill both ways, through the snow, barefoot. No, naked. Many mornings I was naked, long lines of naked kids walking to school. And you know, I know it's true. I know it's true because I would say to my friends, did your moms and dads used to have to walk a long way to school? Everyone, all 30 in my class, they all had similar stories. Well, one of my friends said, no, my dad only used to have to go about 9. But he used to have to raft part of it. She had me wondering, why didn't people back in those days build schools somewhere near where the kids lived? That would have been a good idea. My dad was one of these dads who would say, when I was a kid, if I said, man, it's cold out there today, Dad, he would say, you have no idea what cold is. When I was a kid, we knew what cold was. When I was a kid, it got so cold, I got my mouth stuck in a big old cowbell. This didn't impress me all that much. I never knew a kid, including myself, who at one point in their life didn't get their mouth stuck on a flagpole somewhere, huh? Of course, now I understand that flagpole was not connected to a galloping cow at the time, but nonetheless. If I said to my dad, oh, Dad, I twisted my ankle. It's got that, it's turning purple and really pains. He'd say, you have no idea what pain is. When I was a kid, pain really hurt. Walk it off. That was my dad's solution to every injury. Walk it off. You know, bloody nose. Walk it off. Diarrhea, walk it off. Walk it off. That was his solution. Now, you know what? I suppose my dad was right. I'll bet it was a little more dangerous for him, maybe much more than it was for me when I was a kid. Maybe more dangerous for me than it was for my kids. Certainly more dangerous now for me than it was for my great-grandchild. I had the opportunity recently to put him in his car seat. Boy, that was an educational experience. I couldn't believe it. Times have really changed. It took me about a half an hour to get him in there. It was like solving a puzzle with a screaming baby in your ear. And, you know, and I got him in this thing. I couldn't even see him. It was just, there were buckles all over the place. He looked like an astronaut in an escape pod. That's all I could think of. Little heat-deflecting tiles around it in case it bursts into flame. I was just amazed. And then think, if there's anybody my age here, I guess, you know, in the 50-ish range, do you remember what children's car seats were like when we were children? Quite a change. They were just this little high chair kind of deal with 2 hooks that hung between the mom and the dad because there were no seat belts to buckle them in there, and little metal railing around it because metal is safe, and then a little canvas strap to keep the baby from sliding through there, and on that metal railing was a pretend hard red plastic steering wheel right there. My little sister loved that steering wheel. I think it gave her a sense of control as she swung into the dash every time my dad slowed down. And with my sister and I, my big sister, we'd be fighting in the back seat. Hey, children who are here tonight, you ever fight with your brothers and sisters in the back seat? That ever happen? Of course you do. Kids have always fought in the back seat. That's no big deal, except the difference between you kids these days and my sister and I, we'd be standing up back there. You know. My dad would say, okay, that's it, you kids. You want me to come back there? I thought that was a fascinating idea, really. Sure, Dad, come on back. You know, since you're driving, that'll be interesting. Okay, that's it, Bobby. Time out. Up in the back window. He would send me to the back window for a timeout. Turn around, I don't even want you looking this way, so I'd be laying up there in the back window. Remember that solar heat coming in there? That was nice. Waving to that farmer on the combine there, passing us. And he's drinking. Just praying we wouldn't have to swerve for deer. Deer were a constant threat where I grew up. Deer everywhere. Northern Pennsylvania, they were everywhere. I was like 10 before I realized that deer were living creatures. I just thought the highway department dragged them out there every morning to slow us down on the way to school. That's all I could think. I actually hit a deer in my town on my bike. I wasn't even old enough to ride in the street yet. I'm thumping along on the sidewalk there, and this big buck comes bounding out of this bush and knocks me right off my banana seat. I want to tell you something, people. These kind of things happen to a little boy enough times. That child's going to have Bambi nightmares the rest of his life. 50 years from that time, his wife's going to be saying to him, "Boy, you were screaming again last night. Help me, Thumper, help me." Buck hunting season, 2 weeks in November. You go down to my town, there's just 2 blocks of the town. That whole 2 blocks there, it was just filled with cars, every parking place, and every other car had a buck hanging on the front bumper, strung up there. Kind of a gruesome thing. I knew even as a young boy, I just sensed that those deer did not climb on there voluntarily. I think it was the facial expressions that gave it away. I was down there 7:30 in the evening, beautiful November night, a little light snow coming down, not very cold. My mom had to go in the drugstore. I was like 8 years old, 7, 8 years old. She said, "Do you want to wait out here or go in with me?" I said, "Well, I'll just wait out here." So I sat in the steps. 8 feet away from me, I see this buck hanging on the bumper. And I thought I saw the head twitch a little bit. Well, that got my attention. So I stood up and sort of moved in a little bit. I got like 3.5 feet from this deer. I looked up over the hood. I saw the hunter. He's in the cab behind the steering wheel there. He's sound asleep. So I moved a little bit closer. Now, the truth, of course, is he wasn't sound asleep. Hunter was wide awake. He had one hand on the horn. The other hand he had on a piece of fishing line that went out the window, over the mirror, across the hood, and was attached to the top antler of the deer. I got about 1.5 feet from this animal. This is what I experienced. I am quite certain to that point in my life I had pretty much stopped wetting my pants. I had to work on that for another 5 or 6 years. That was frustrating. And the hunter, he jumps out of the cab. "Oh, man. Oh, man. Oh, I just about scared you to death. Sorry." This guy represented about half the adults I grew up with in my town. People would get a kick out of giving a kindergartner a nervous breakdown. Life was dangerous. We had packs of roving dogs in my town. They didn't belong to anybody. No collars, no licenses, no leashes. These days, every dog's got a license on a leash with a collar, with an owner, with a plastic bag walking behind him. But not back then. Packs of roving dogs, and no little roving dogs. I think they got eaten by the big ones. These were all Stephen King kind of dogs. Frightening. They were in a V. I was out playing basketball. I'm like 10. I'm just out playing basketball. I'm not playing basketball. I'm just out there kind of pretending. I mean, it wasn't the real thing, is what I mean. Because, well, we didn't have a hoop. I hear this, roar. I turn around, pack of dogs, coming right in my driveway, right for me. It's like I just made it to the screen door by the garage there and slammed the door in one paw. This dog squealing. They're scraping like this, and they're foaming, and I'm screaming, and my dad says, "What's the racket down there?" I said, "Oh, Dad, these mean dogs." He says, "You have no idea what mean dogs are."